Trump campaign is now reaching voters online.
You are seeing the President of the United States. Look at the lines.
You join our movement.
A lot of President Trump supporters here.
Greatest movement in the history of our country.
I think the one thing we can say they all have in common is they are fighters, both figuratively and literally.
We are leaders in our community is going to ensure that President Trump gets reelected soundly in November.
Because we have such strong leadership coming from the White House, we are making it through.
God has called President Trump for this purpose in this time. So let's keep voting for him, and we will keep winning.
I honestly don't know why Joe Biden is running. He can't remember anything.
President Trump has been a champion for families and in particular for mothers.
And he ran on, I'm going to build the wall.
We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will make America great again.
Welcome to Team Trump.
Wednesday just got better because the ladies are live discussing the hottest topics of the week with you tonight.
And we will make America great again.
Good evening, everyone. Well, you've heard of The View, but welcome to The Right View. You see what we did there. I'm Lara, Trump's senior advisor to President Trump's re-election campaign. We have a fantastic panel tonight of brilliant women who have been working tirelessly on President Trump's campaign. Kimberly Guilfoyle, national chair of Trump Victory, Mercedes Schlapp, senior advisor for strategic communications, and Katrina Pierson, senior advisor to the Trump campaign. Ladies, we have a great show ahead, so let's get started. I want to start by talking about something that we've heard about for a long time. We recently found that President Trump, for about a week and a half now, has been taking the drug hydroxychloroquine. This drug that the media would have had everyone believe would kill you, even at the sight of it. They had been warning people not to take it. Yet, when you look back at the history of this drug, I actually just found out that I took hydroxychloroquine about 15 years ago. My dad told me this when we went to Ecuador as a family, because it's a drug prescribed to prevent malaria. It has been taken worldwide for decades with no issues. What does everybody think about the fact that we just found out that President Trump has now been taking it? How dumb does every member in the media probably look to a lot of America right now? What do you guys think?
Who wants to go first? Okay, let me tell you something. You just made news, Lara, because they're going to report that you took the drug when you were 15 years old.
You're probably right.
For Twitter to go crazy, okay? But that's exactly what happened. When the president talked about this yesterday, the media went insane. Twitter blew up. They were like, wait a second, he's taking the drug. He didn't tell us. The drug's going to kill us all. It was such an overreaction coming from the media. And even we saw Morning Joe Scarborough, the infamous Joe Scarborough, basically then accused the president's doctor of lying, accusing the president that he's not really taking the drugs. And then Mika coming up with a conspiracy theory that there could be financial ties between the president and a drug maker. It is the insanity of the press. And it's why they just can't handle the president even, talking about what he's doing as a preventive measure, something that, as we know, should be between the doctor and the patient.
Right. Well, it's been interesting. Katrina, I want to get your take on this because you live in Texas, and Texas finally just kind of came out with this new rule to say you can prescribe hydroxychloroquine, and the pharmacist has to fill the prescription, because what was happening before is that if a doctor wrote a prescription for hydroxychloroquine in the state of Texas, and then the person would take the prescription to their pharmacy, the pharmacist would say, well, I'm not going to fill it if it's prescribed for COVID-19, if it's prescribed for coronavirus. But that just got reversed. It just got changed. Tell everybody a little bit about that.
You know what's interesting is when you hear the term practice medicine, it's truly what should be happening. You have a physician as a patient, discuss the symptoms, discuss the diagnosis, and then talk about the treatment. And then your physician is the one who is supposed to decide on what treatment, preventative or not, may work best for that patient. But what has happened, especially with this particular case, and as you've mentioned, you and a lot of other people who have traveled to other parts of the world have likely taken hydrochloroquine, or Plaquenil is what it's usually called, to go overseas to prevent malaria. Many people, including children, have also taken this drug, and it's been out there for decades. If you have rheumatoid arthritis, if you have Sjogren's syndrome, any type of autoimmune disease, likely this is the drug that you will be taking. And what has happened since the president has mentioned hydrochloroquine, the media, the left, everyone that's suffering from Trump derangement syndrome has somehow put it in this package of horrible things to do, when in fact, if something is useful as a preventative measure, you would want your president to be taking this so that he's better off to fight it. What's happened in Texas is there's been this huge outcry of grassroots support for just that, practicing medicine. When you have physicians who are using, migraine drugs to treat off-label other situations, when you have, Botox being used off-label for other things, you have so many other drugs out there that other people benefit from, because guess what, Laura? Not everyone has the same metabolism. Not everyone has the same genes that function and code for the same proteins. Not everyone processes all medicines the same. That's why they ask you all those questions before your surgery. So Texans have stood up against this attempt to stop and to block hydrochloroquine from being used as a preventative measure, and fought back against the bureaucracy and against the politicians that have been pushing it, and now have reversed that decision. And here in Texas, you are allowed to practice medicine again.
Imagine that. It's such a beautiful thing. Kimberly, let me get your take on something, because I found that the interesting thing as it relates to hydroxychloroquine is the fact that it's a very cheap drug. It costs around $10 to $15 a prescription of it, versus other drugs that are being pushed out there that are far, far more expensive. There are a lot of people out there that wonder why we wouldn't try something that is affordable, that could be distributed very easily, and most Americans could probably afford. People might look at this as some sort of a conspiracy. Now that we know that the president is taking it, I think it gives it all the more backing to perhaps be used in trials, or maybe we should re-up the conversation about prescribing it to more Americans.
You're absolutely right, and I appreciate you pushing this narrative forward, because really you have to give a hard look and say, okay, the president's been taking it. He is the commander-in-chief, leader of the free world. I think if the doctors and the medical community can agree that it's safe for the president of the United States, that it is safe for Americans. And this is the type of bold, decisive leadership where the president puts himself front on the battle line to protect all the rest of us. I love it. Let's go with Trump, because you know what? He's been right all along. The things that he gets after, he says, listen, I'm going to make sure I'm not just going to do empty rhetoric. Okay, he smashes the media bias, because they'd rather see Americans dropping like flies than they'd rather put some proven, tested medical evidence forward for something that has been battle tested and in fact has been verified, that has been approved by the medical boards, by the FDA, all of the above, that actually can save lives. That's a game changer. So I applaud him for his courage once again, not just rhetoric, but leading and saying, I'll do it first so that I can help save American lives. And I think it speaks volumes about the president, his character, his willing to lead and be the one to go first and then he says, America first, come in right after me. It's amazing. And people should really think about that. Like, give pause. It's not the president talking about something. He's saying, I'm going to go and I'm going to make sure that it's okay because I care about each and every one of you. So I really just hope that this is more of a positive development on the horizon, that we can move forward as a country and bring back this winning economy by making America healthy and safe and strong again.
Yeah, and I think liberal heads were exploding all over the country the second the president announced he was taking this drug. I think it's fantastic. It's been clear over recent weeks that because of the incredible and bold leadership of President Trump, the United States has made significant progress against the coronavirus. The Trump administration launched a whole of America approach to flatten the curve, and it worked. President Trump accomplished this by launching the greatest public and private sector mobilization effort since World War II, ensuring our country has every supply necessary to fight the coronavirus. This historic mobilization included building the world's leading coronavirus testing system, despite lies by Joe Biden, the Democrats, and his allies in the mainstream media. A recent Washington Post article, if you can believe this, reported that a survey of governor's offices and state health departments found at least a dozen states where testing capacity outstrips the supply of patients. Ladies, what is your reaction to this article for the Washington Post to say essentially we don't have enough people to test, yet they've been harassing the president and his administration saying you don't have enough testing, not enough testing, not enough testing? And also, why is Joe Biden spreading lies about the states not having enough coronavirus testing? Kimberly, let's go back to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just this is really unbelievable. But bottom line is, we know that testing is obviously a critical component to safely reopening the economy, right? That goes without saying. But with it, we have to work in coordination and in concert with state officials that are able to provide a way for citizens to be quickly diagnosed. That's what we need. The more rapid response we can get on this in terms of, okay, someone gets tested, we identify, and then they can act based on those tests. And then they can be treated like with things like hydroxychloroquine. And we can continue to control the spread of the disease by doing that. Obviously, a vaccine is going to be a component of that as well. And this was, in fact, a major promise that the president made to America early on in his response to this pandemic. And it really is another example of promises made and promises kept. So whether it's, ventilators or it's personal protection equipment, America is now leading the way. Now we're the number one manufacturer of these ventilators, and in fact showing our great humanitarian magnitude of saying, hey, we're going to be magnanimous. We're going to make sure that other countries have it and protect everybody, because this is a country, we have people coming in and out, and we want to make sure that the whole country is protected and that we have a very good response and program and plan mapped out to handle it. Now, as for Biden, he doesn't actually know what state he's in half the time, but he should just stick in the basement, okay? So it's no surprise that he can't keep up with any of the facts on this. But really, you have to give a hard look at this when you think about who you're going to vote for on November 3rd. You want Sleepy Joe, asleep at the wheel, asleep in the basement. That's not who you want. The guy can't get it together. God bless. We can pray for him, but we don't choose him. You get what I'm saying? They can't even do a live stream and get it working right. So how the hell are they supposed to protect the country? I don't think they can. That's just a fact. So look what President Trump's been able to do. You see him working in a bipartisan effort with people across municipalities, with different states, with governors of different states, to make sure, using decisive leadership and working in concert with them to make sure that America is safely reopened. And that's what we need. That's why America appreciates him. And he, quite frankly, is what America deserves.
Well, I want to go to something, speaking of Joe Biden, of Sleepy Joe. His campaign just announced, wait for this, because I have to read verbatim. Presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden has finally, guys, unveiled his moniker for 2020 rival President Trump, saying he calls his general election opponent, wait for it, drum roll please, President Tweety. Really? This is the best that all the people propping Joe Biden up for months and years now, this is what they came up with. Katrina, what on earth? I mean, What is this? That's the best they got. That's kind of sad. It's a little weak, Joe.
You know, Laura, I would love to see the price tag on what it took to come up with that one. Can't you just see the memes now? I mean, don't they understand that Tweety Bird always wins? This makes Joe Biden the idiot Sylvester. The guy that can't seem to get it right.
He can't catch up to Tweety. There's no catching up to Tweety.
There's no catching Tweety. He's smarter. He outwits everyone. He always wins, and he laughs at everyone that tries to catch him. So actually, I think it's quite fitting. So I would like to see the price tag on that one, Laura. I think that, you know, you also mentioned, you know, why Joe Biden is still saying, you know, these things with the testing, even though there's, you know, a lot of tests out there, and it's because of the narrative. When you think about somebody like President Trump, who goes out on national television and says, we are going to produce X, Y, and Z, and actually does it, the simple fact that he's always been able to deliver and has always been able to deliver on time makes it very difficult for the press to report the truth, because they can't tell the people the truth. So I can't wait to see these memes of President Tweety out there outwitting the media, outwitting the press, and outwitting Sylvester himself as he continues to fall all over himself as he steps on a rake and smashes his face.
Well, as I always say, what we say in my home state of North Carolina, bless his heart, we'll say it again for Joe. Last week, President Trump announced Project Warp Speed, a massive scientific, industrial, and logistical endeavor unlike anything since the Manhattan Project. The objective of Project Warp Speed is to finish developing and then to manufacture and distribute a proven coronavirus vaccine. Mercy, it's clear that President Trump has taken bold and unprecedented action to combat coronavirus. How critical was it that President Trump acted so quickly in finding treatment for the virus? And we know this president cuts through red tape. We know this is a general thing that he's always cared about. But how critical was it, especially in this instance?
Laura, you've got me stuck with President Tweety. Can't you just picture these Biden people holding up like a white paper going, all right, this is option one, President Tweety.
So
there was a whiteboard and everyone was drawing on it.
And the anvil drops.
I mean, it probably took them like 3 months to come up with a name. And then he's like in the basement going, yeah, well, maybe we should go with that one. I mean, let's be real. President Trump has fundamentally changed how we communicate. He drives the news cycle through tweets. So thank you, Joe Biden, coming up with President Tweety, because God only knows that this president has revolutionized social media, and you obviously cannot get it together on any digital social media platform. Anyways, going back to Project Warp Speed, so critical. Why? Because here's the deal that the president gets. He understands that the innovation and the talent comes from the United States of America. And it really is creating this competitive spirit where companies can put their best research, invest in development to ensure that we're able to create this vaccine. Let's keep in mind that this president also understands that we need to bring the supply chain back to the United States, meaning we don't want China to dominate in this space. It's why he's moving forward on bringing pharmaceutical companies back to the U.S. and investing here, because we know the talent is here. You know what the Chinese are trying to do? They are going and hacking into our research institutions to take the information on how to develop the vaccines. They're not even smart enough to come up with their own solution. They have to steal from us. And that's why President Trump, in his really, what I would say, historic effort of mobilizing the federal government, as well as working with the private sector to come up with innovative solutions, is why we lead in terms of research and development and innovation in America. And it's why we will come up with a vaccine. We will see promising results, you know, and I think that's why you'll see the rest of the world look at the United States and at President Trump as leading the effort on combating the coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, well, and we know, Mercy, that no matter how great a job this president does. The fake news media will never give him credit. The Democrats will, of course, never give him any credit for anything. There's obviously been no shortage of fake media outrage, fake news media outrage during the coronavirus outbreak. Instead of just delivering the facts to the American people like they should be doing, the mainstream media has consistently editorialized and lectured Americans. There was no better recent example of this fake news media outrage than seeing the viral clip of CNN's Caitlin Collins immediately taking off her mask after the White House press conference wrapped. Of course, everybody's got to be, with the masks on, and they get upset with the president about why no mask. The second the camera's cut off, she's got her mask off. Katrina, how do members of the media expect Americans to take them seriously when they consistently grandstand and engage in such blatant hypocrisy?
I don't think that Americans take them seriously much anymore at all, because for the longest time, they didn't wear a mask at all when all of the outrage, when no one can find toilet paper, the media was complaining about not wearing masks, and they never showed up with a mask. So I don't think anybody takes them seriously. But what I do think that it shows, Laura, which is what I think is extremely important, is that the media is not taking this as seriously as they're wanting the American public to. This is, again, an obvious attempt to try and control the masses, to try and tell the people what they want them to think, what they want them to know, not what's actually happening or the truth. It's this do as I say, not as I do mentality that we've seen for many, many years now. And we've seen this among all of the elitists, not even just, with the press in and of itself. The press protects the elite. They have this narrative they're pushing against the American people. They have this narrative they're pushing against the president of the United States and his supporters. But they don't necessarily believe it, because I hate to tell you this, but if Caitlin Collins was afraid of catching coronavirus, considering that someone in the White House was recently diagnosed with it, she'd have kept that mask on. So I think that speaks volumes to what the press truly thinks about what they truly think about the coronavirus and what they think that the real threat is. And the simple fact that they show up to the White House and just take off the mask when they think the cameras aren't running really shows hypocrisy when you see a lot of these same reporters out there demanding that Americans wear masks just to step outside their houses.
Yep. Well, going hand in hand with the fake news media, Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats are using coronavirus in an attempt to push their radical agenda, because we know they'll do it at any cost. The $3 trillion, 1,800-page bill is a liberal wish list that has almost nothing to do with providing relief to Americans hit hardest by the unforeseen coronavirus pandemic. Kimberly, what does it say about the Democratic Party that during a public health crisis, during a time like this, they're more concerned with passing their radical agenda than actually helping Americans?
Well, I mean, this is just, really so to be expected. I mean, Democrats have been exposed for the power-hungry socialists that they are. And it really is unfortunate, because it's been at the expense of the American people. And that's the problem, because they're always going to put politics first. And when you think about it, they're totally out of touch, right? Whether it's Nancy Pelosi in front of her, $25,000 refrigerator.
Got to get that ice cream.
Absolutely. Got to get that ice cream. Trying to literally use the crisis, to advance her radical political agenda. Americans see through it, and people from across the nation are literally begging to go back to work, like we've talked about before. And they need to be able to earn a living and put food on the table. Many of them single mothers trying to make a living and feed their children, while balancing that the kids are home doing virtual learning. It's a lot to handle for any American family. But these amazing American entrepreneurs, they built great businesses. They want to open back up. They want to jump into that revenue stream and experience the American economy. They want to hire back their employees who are going through the same struggles that they are. And instead of focusing on any of that, the Democrats, they're just trying to ram through fake, phony, harmful legislation like the Green New Deal. They want bailouts for their friends and poorly managed states that are just wasting these resources in the American tax dollars. I'll also look at California. They want to open it up, give checks out, hand it out for illegal immigrants, putting illegal immigrants ahead of American citizens, not under President Trump's watch. And this has to come to a stop. And that might be the vision that the Democrats have for the country and for America, because these Democrats in D.C. are totally checked out. It's all they care about, but it is not what working class Americans care deeply about. That's why they elected President Trump, and we have to get him reelected on November 3rd. All right, so Democrats, they need to get back to actually getting their act together, working on behalf of their constituents, of the men and women, the hardworking men and women that President Trump made sure weren't forgotten anymore. And instead of just advancing their bizarre, magical, like socialist utopia, let's just look at, screen, push forward Venezuela. It doesn't work for anybody. And that's what's at stake in this election. And those are the issues that people should be thinking about, because these are very binary choices. And the survival of America and the America First agenda is dependent on a successful election that puts Donald Trump back in on November 3rd.
If I may add, Laura, real quick, just that bill, just so that our viewers understand, it was written in secrecy. There were no Republicans involved in writing that Democrat, we'll call it bailout bill. And the other piece of this is that you even have Democrats within her own party who don't agree with this bill. So these are Democrats who are in Trump districts, as we would call it, and they didn't support that. Now contrast that with President Trump, where he worked with both Republicans and Democrats to get the CARES Act passed, to get Paycheck Protection Program passed to help small businesses and provide relief to American families. That's how you want to do this in Washington, a bipartisan approach with President Trump's leadership. What Nancy Pelosi is proposing, her goal is to spend her way outside, or the country's way outside of this problem. You can't do it. You can't spend our way out of this. This is not the solution. We have to find a way where we're able to provide the immediate relief to the families, but not accept the Democrats' version of just bankrupting our nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and to your point, there were so many things in here, though, that had nothing to do with coronavirus. They were trying to slip in legislation that would say that on November 3rd, we can't actually go to a polling location to vote. You would have to vote by mailing in your vote. Now, I mean, the problems with that are through the roof. It's very interesting that they're okay with people standing in line to wait at the grocery store or wherever it is that they need to go. But for some reason, if you stand 6 feet apart from the person in front of you, but you're going in to vote, that is not okay with them. On November 3rd, we need to make sure that not only are people out there voting for Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, but all the way down, we need to take back the House, because Nancy Pelosi and this kind of nonsense is so dangerous for this country. I mean, she's been there long enough. Doesn't she need a break? Doesn't she need to go buy some more chocolate ice cream?
A permanent vacation.
Hey, Laura, I have an idea. We can go vote at Walmart. We'll just set up a polling station at Walmart.
There you go.
You show up, you can get a gallon of milk and then vote. I mean, maybe that's the solution.
All right, we'll send that to Nancy. We'll see what she thinks. All right, ladies, stay right there. Everybody stay where you are. We'll be right back with more of The Right View.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
My administration will take all necessary steps to safeguard our citizens from this threat.
Hysterical xenophobia. Giving Americans a false sense.
Is it accurate that if these steps had not been put in place, it could have been 2 billion people dead here in the United States?
Yes.
No matter how hard they try to stop us, they can't. We built the greatest economy the world has ever seen, and we're going to do it again. Together, we're beating back the invisible enemy.
What the federal government did was a phenomenal accomplishment.
Through it all, the world has witnessed the unyielding resolve of our incredible American people.
Promise made, promise kept.
And I'm fighting for you, and I love doing it with everything that I have. And you know that. With the grace of God, we will win this war, and we will win this war quickly. And we will make America great again.
I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, and I'm joined by some of the best and brightest women in politics today. Lara Trump, Katrina Pierson, and Mercedes Schlapp. Well, we just heard about President Trump's progress in the fight against the coronavirus. And as we know for far too long, the women on ABC's The View have believed they represent all of women's views. I have news for them. They do not. We know that's not the case. And they are, in fact, radical liberal women who feed into the fake news narrative. And they're obsessed with their hatred towards the president. Like, they can't even, they got the Trump derangement syndrome goggles on. And they're like, where am I? Bumping into walls, screaming, ranting, and raving. But Americans across the country, they're growing tired of the fake news media and their partisan games. And an example of this appeared when a group of patriotic Americans in Long Island, New York, exercised their First Amendment rights through peaceful protests, and they were met with the scorn, full scorn of the media. Now, the liberal women of The View condemned the protesters, but President Trump, in fact, called them great people. And I want to get the group's reaction to this clip of the women on The View degrading these protesters. Let's watch.
You are the enemy of the people. You are the enemy. We all know it. You are fake news. We know that your liberal agenda. We know you want to keep your job. We get it. You're not getting advertiser dollars in right now. You're not going to answer, so you're just going to go live.
Yes, I am getting a paycheck.
I'm very happy, but other people are not getting paychecks, and they're not getting.
There used to be a good channel at one time.
You allow people.
I don't know what happened to you.
Fake news is not essential. Fake news is not essential. Fake news is not essential. Fake news is not essential.
So those that have been affected the most still want the stay-at-home restrictive orders. And so I think that this is just sort of people playing, into Trump's hands. These are just these are like political ploys.
Okay, so there you go. I guess Sunny knows best, right, Katrina? So I want to get your thoughts on this. So they're saying the people that know best, they want to stay home. They want the restrictions. Like, where's she getting her information?
Probably from elitist CNN, because the people that I know who think that all of their jobs are essential, because it doesn't quite make sense why you can still go to any corporation, to buy your home goods, to buy your fast food, but you can't go to your mom and pop to purchase the exact same thing. And so this notion that, the small business owner somehow can't seem to abide by the same guidelines, which, by the way, small businesses have many guidelines that they have to abide by, somehow are deemed non-essential. So number one, they're not talking to actual people about this. And number two, Sunny should really be ashamed of herself, because the people that were really hit the hardest by this were barbers and beauticians. And it's truly unfortunate that these people were literally rendered out of business because that is their only income. Most Americans don't have enough savings to go 3 or 4 months without a paycheck. And so they're really not talking to the people who were being impacted by this the most, even though those words came out of their mouths. So it's truly unfortunate that you have these small business owners who were essentially pushed aside and not considered essential, while the corporations remained open, put little black X's on their floor, and continue to receive the businesses. So it's truly elitist of these people to say that. It's elitist to judge these people, because really in America, all jobs are essential. Everyone has a family to take care of. People don't want to rely on the government, and people want to make sure that their children aren't terrified because of the fake news media are making this out to be something that could actually destroy a generation of children.
Absolutely. Lara, this liberal media, they continue to thumb their nose at the American worker, the American voter, with an elitist attitude, telling them that they know better than they do. They're not capable of making their own decisions, their own choices, exercising freedom of expression in a legal or peaceful way. It's outrageous, because it really does just smack of elitism. And that's really what the Democrat Party, besides socialism, what they've come to represent.
Well, they have, but I think if you go back and look at that video, if you swap out the Trump 2020 flag with a Joe Biden flag, I can almost guarantee you these women would have had zero like what they see, because these people support Donald Trump, and they support Donald Trump because he understands that you can't shut down businesses. You can't tell people to stay home from work in perpetuity. He said from the very beginning, the cure cannot be worse than the virus itself. And we have gotten to the other side of that. Americans are frustrated. Everyone that I know, my friends and family down home in North Carolina, who a lot of them live paycheck to paycheck, they are done with this. You know, as Americans, we were happy to come together and do the right thing. We were happy to stay home for, you know, a certain period of time. And we flattened the curve. We did what was asked of us. And now people are saying, okay, we're on the other side of that. But wait, you switched the goalpost now. Because instead of flatten the curve, they've all of a sudden jumped to, well, now we have to have a cure. All of these elitists, all these people who have the ability to stay home with, you know, they're still receiving their paychecks. So what does it matter? Americans should stay home. It's ridiculous. People are sick and tired of it. We have to get back to life. No one understands that more than this president. He understands why we have to get this economy back up and running. So good for those people for getting out there. Shame on these women at The View who obviously are so out of touch with real America and real Americans and what their actual needs are. It's disgusting, but it's what we've become very used to seeing on shows like this, and it's really sad.
Yeah, it's become the propaganda, you know, for the Democrats and the liberal left. But, you know, Mercy, I love this, you know, hypocrisy. But at the same time, I got to tell you, you go, ladies, on The View, because it's like amazing for the voter turnout, for people supporting the president. When you have these ladies on The View sitting there going, oh, no, shaking their finger, wagging their finger at the American people, when in fact, it's quite the opposite. And I think it really serves to be a motivator for the base and for the hardworking men and women in the country that support the president's agenda. It's like the best infomercial ever.
Well, and you know, you have to wonder if Joe Biden would ever become president, which will not happen in our lifetime, who he would pick as press secretary. Will it be Joe Behar? I mean, come on.
Joy or Whoopi.
You know, they literally sit with Joe Biden in an interview and they go, Joe is like trying to finish a sentence and Joy jumps in and it's like, I've got this. Senator Biden, you know, let me help you finish the sentence. Trump is bad. It's so predictable. Come on. I mean, I think the American people see through it. And it's why like shows like The View and some of these other shows, liberal media networks, like they hate the president. They've made it very clear where they stand. And it is propaganda. Their goal is to not present the facts.
Mercy, you know, have Democrat governors like Gretchen Whitmer really gone too far in certain responses that they've given to this? It's like they never let a good crisis go to waste.
Governor Whitmer reminds me of like the meanest nanny you could ever have. Like, you know, it's like the nanny state, the ultimate nanny state. It's like the woman walks in and she's terrifying. She scares the children. She scares the old people. It doesn't work. It doesn't work with her. And what was sad is like she actually went out of her way to go after this barber, this barber who's been working for decades and take away his license. It's like, how dare she? She would, I mean, she's scary, I tell you. And the sad thing is, you know what she's doing? She's auditioning for the VP slot. That's all she cares about.
100%.
It's all about like,
would love
Joe
that.
Biden, I'm here, I'm the new shiny object. Well, let me tell you, the people of Michigan are done with her. And I do think that it's just atrocious what she's doing to continue placing these very stringent restrictions on the people of Michigan. And I think that they know it. They know it for sure.
No, you're absolutely right. She's failed the people of Michigan, and she would fail the American people, which is yet another substantial reason why you can't allow like a Biden-Whitmer ticket to go forward and take over the country. That's not happening, right, ladies, on our watch. All right, we're going to switch gears to a topic on every American's mind right now, and that is the reopening of the American economy. Now, President Trump has made clear that America must continue to reopen safely. And the president has branded our country's reopening as the transition to greatness. Laura, President Trump, as you well know, once built the hottest economy in modern history. Why do you believe that he's the only person who can bring the American dream and the American economy roaring back following the coronavirus?
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. I think everybody saw what this president was able to do in his first 3 years in office. You saw the historic numbers across the board when it came to the economy and this president. The lowest unemployment numbers we have seen in the history of this country, the highest stock market numbers we've ever seen, jobs that came back to this country, manufacturing jobs that Joe Biden and Barack Obama said we would never get back. They came back by the hundreds of thousands. And so this is a president that gets it. He's run a business. He understands how this all works. And he is literally the only person in this race who could possibly do it. Joe Biden doesn't even know when he's on camera for his virtual rally with 2,000 people in Florida or whatever is going on. This guy's policies, Joe Biden's policies, are incredibly, incredibly scary. If we had a great economy, they would be frightening. But implementing things like the Green New Deal, which he is now a champion of, doing things like free health care for illegal immigrants. I mean, the amount of money that we're talking about that would be wasted on this kind of nonsense when the American people want a champion in the White House, somebody who has their back, who gets it, who understands how to get them back to work. Donald Trump is the only person in this race that could possibly do it. He's probably one of the only people, quite frankly, in America who understands how to do it. He has set up this country so well, and thank God we had President Trump leading up to the coronavirus. Could you imagine for a second if we weren't in that really great economic position going into this, how bad the fallout could have been? We will get through coronavirus. We will come out on the other side, and we will have the best economy in the entire world once again under the leadership of President Trump. If Joe Biden for a second got a hold of things, it would be an absolute disaster. This guy has no idea what he's doing, and it's actually a very scary prospect.
It really is. I mean, it's almost unbelievable that Biden is the nominee, but pretty much anybody they came up with wouldn't be a good choice, but he would be disastrous. You're so right, Laura. And I'll tell you, this whole crisis has really been the underpinning of the president's America First agenda. He warned the world to make sure that we put American manufacturers and jobs and workers first, that we don't rely on foreign countries that want to see ill will towards America, towards our economy, that want to step on it. And look what's happened here. The deceit, just honestly, just what's gone on here is just really reinforced what the president has been telling the American people all along. And I want to thank you all. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back for more of The Right View. Stay with us.
In 2016, we built an unbeatable operation that changed history. Now, we unveil our next breakthrough. The exclusive Trump 2020 app. This isn't just an app. This is your source for real news, not fake news, straight from the campaign and the president himself. This is your direct line to give input on key campaign issues. Your portal to register voters, host MAGA meetups, your scheduler, your application on becoming a Trump team leader. Join millions and get a front row seat to our virtual events. Watch Team Trump every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Earn points, get rewarded, get the presidential photo. Oh, and did we mention it? This is your personal shopper too? So just to repeat, this isn't just an app. This is your tool to keep America great. Join the army for Trump and download the app today.
Welcome back. It's girls' night out again. Goodness gracious, I don't know where the guys are, but thank God they're far, far away, I hope, right now. Where is Don Jr., Kimberly?
Doing chores like he should be, being helpful and being best. Yes.
Oh, wow.
And Eric is putting the kids to bed. Is that the plan?
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's cooking dinner for us and finishing everything up right now. I'm sure that's happening.
Running your bubble bath.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, let me tell you, Schlapp is so big into getting this economy reopened again, because if I have to keep him in the house for much longer, I think he's going to scream. So it's a good thing. Let's reopen up the economy. But it's my great honor to be here with such great friends, Lara Trump, Kimberly Guilfoyle, and Katrina Pierson. Thank you all for joining us again. We talked about the economy, we've talked about coronavirus, but there is one topic that we must address. Obama Biden gate. Yep. One of the biggest political scandals in American history. And guess who doesn't want to cover it? The media. How surprising is that? But there are some very serious questions here of what Joe Biden might know or might not know. So, Katrina, I'm going to go to you first. Why is it so important that we find out what Joe Biden knew about these conversations regarding General Flynn?
You know, it's so important because you have someone who is running to be the president of the United States. And with that comes with an oath to the Constitution. Someone who's been in political office for 4 decades, someone who served as vice president. And if in fact he abused this power, this authority to not only authorize the political spying on the opposition, of violating constitutional rights of citizens, then I think Americans need to really truly understand who is seeking office, because it's not just a man who's running to be president of the United States. This is a man who's running for nothing but ultimate power by any means necessary. And that is not what this country is founded upon. Our country is founded upon people who want to represent the people of this country, not entities like China so they can financially benefit, not entities like states of terrorism because it puts forth some other agenda that pushes, military action in other areas. This is really important because if Joe Biden really was aware or made some of these actions, some of this stuff is coming out in reporting, then the American people need to know about it. And not only do they need to know about it, Mercedes, but there needs to be accountability. There is only one way to restore faith in our government and its agencies, is to hold these people accountable. You cannot have people in authority who weaponize law enforcement agencies. No American can go up against the United States government. No nation can go up against the United States government. And if these operations are weaponized against the American people to violate the constitutional rights of the average citizens, ruin their livelihoods, take away their freedom, literally by putting them in prison for the rest of their lives, that is something Americans need to know. Joe Biden is not running to be president of the United States. He is running for ultimate power and ultimate control over the American public, and Americans need to know that.
You're totally right. Mercy, just real quick, I want to say that this, I think, one issue makes him totally unfit to be commander-in-chief. The fact that he tried to put an American hero behind bars, he was duplicitous, it is un-American, it is unacceptable. He automatically should be disqualified. It really just goes to show you the measure of the man, the lack of character, the lack of morality, the lack of ethics. And don't get me started on the whole Biden family. I call them the first family of China. They've never put American interests first, and that's what they would do, is sell out the country and sell out the White House if they were elected.
Any means necessary.
I want to bring this up, Lara, to you. Let's recreate this political abuse. Let's recreate the timeline. So you have Biden, Obama, President Obama, Susan Rice, James Comey. They have this meeting. They're talking about the Steele dossier, which is talk about the fakest of the fake news item that they used to create the Russian hoax. Then following that, you had Joe Biden put an unmasking request to figure out who was talking to the Russian ambassador. Same day, a quote, senior government official literally leaked these reports to the Washington Post. And then it all comes out. And then this is the start of the Russian hoax for the next 2 years, in the first 2 years of President Trump's presidency.
Yeah, it's astounding. And I hope everyone appreciates how egregious this really was. This was January of 2017, a couple of weeks before Donald Trump was sworn into office as the 45th president of the United States. The election was over. There was no reason to continue this nonsense. It shouldn't have been started in the beginning. They furthered the media's thirst for anything to do with taking down President Donald Trump, or President-elect Donald Trump at that point. And that led us, Mercy, to your point, into the Russia collusion hoax, into the Mueller investigation. Who among these individuals is willing to give the American public 2 years of our lives back? tens of millions of taxpayer dollars back that all went into an investigation that every single one of these individuals knew from day one was bogus. It was complete garbage. Yet they continued to do it. They broke all kinds of laws. They did things that were so unconstitutional. And these are the folks that the American people had put our trust in to lead our country. It is disgusting. It is so disturbing. But that's what I think a lot of people out there would like to know. Who gives us our time back? Who gives us our money back? When you guys knew full well that this was a phony investigation from the very beginning, everything you were doing was a backup plan to take down Donald Trump because he was not your chosen nominee. Guess what? You don't get to decide. The American voters do. And look, we'll never get that time back. Unfortunately, we'll never get that money back. Absolutely, people need to be held accountable for this. But if you are a United States citizen, you better get to the voting booth on November 3rd and send a very clear message that they do not speak for you. You get your vote and you're casting it for Donald Trump. That is the best way to get back at these folks.
So, Kimberly, it gets even better. Okay, this whole thing breaks. Obama-Biden gate. Right. You know, conservative media starts covering it. Different news, some of the news channels covered it. But what was fascinating was the liberal media, they basically said that it was a conspiracy theory and refused to cover it. So you had CNN, Brian Stelter come out and quote, claiming that there is an obsession on the right with the Russian probe and the recent Obama-Biden gate revelations. But
is that your Brian Stelter impersonation? I like it.
I try. I probably have to shave my hair off, but other than that. But so, Kimberly, seriously, the media obsessed about the Russian hooks for 2 years. And yet when this comes out about General Michael Flynn, they're like, we don't want to cover it. You know, let's put it off to the side. Isn't that just tragic?
Oh, it absolutely is, and it's disgraceful. I mean, there's just no honor, there's no ethics, no integrity left in the mainstream media. They've been effectively weaponized by the left and by the Democrats. They're complicit and walking in lockstep, really, to defraud the American people, to really by themselves perpetrate a hoax on the American people, to not deliver the facts, to not talk about the evidence, to not actually tell the truth. To say they have a loose relationship with the truth is really understating it, because this is what's happening out there every single day. If you turn on the television to most of these outlets, it's a political infomercial for someone grossly incompetent and unqualified to be president of the United States, for Joe Biden. And they'll do whatever it takes to try to disparage and to try to dismantle what President Trump has built for this country, because they hate President Trump so much. They hate him more than they love this country. And it's really sad. It's sickening. And that's why we have to make sure that we rise up and fight against it and get the truth out there with programs like this.
Yeah, by the way, go ahead. I have been tuning in to the morning shows since the news of all of this broke, a week and a half ago. And I have seen very little, if any, coverage on these morning shows. So they are doing everything they can to prevent the American people from actually knowing the truth and what happened here. Could you imagine for a second, guys, if the shoe was on the other foot? If the roles were reversed and Obama had been the incoming president and Donald Trump and his administration were the crew of folks that were in the Oval Office together to put this plan together, it would be the only thing that anyone in the entire country was talking about on the news networks everywhere. It's astounding, their silence. Their silence is deafening, and they're going to get a really, really rude wake-up call, I think, on November 3rd.
I hope you're right. They don't just lie, they hide the truth. They go out of their way to hide the truth from the American people. That's part of their narrative that they're putting forward, and it's part of their playbook to try and dupe the American people. But we saw it, right, Laura, in 2016? American people are smarter.
Katrina, final thoughts. I mean, obviously, this is a very telling time that you have the media not wanting to cover this horrific political abuse of power. I do hope the Senate acts on investigating, because God only knows we had to put up with Adam Schiff day in and day out on television talking about the Russian hoax. Your final thoughts, Katrina.
You know, you talked about Adam Schiff and this mountains of evidence. Remember Swalwell? We've seen all this evidence and there is no evidence. So I think that we absolutely have to have some sort of accountability here. There were crimes committed. When you're talking about lying to a FISA court, falsifying evidence, if anyone here on this call or watching this program did half of what any of these people did within these institutions, we would go to prison for a lifetime. So there absolutely has to be accountability. And as far as I'm concerned, that if the Senate can subpoena Donald Trump Jr. to testify after all of this, they can subpoena everyone else who was actually involved in this nonsense. We have to get to the bottom of it. We have to hold them accountable and restore faith in our government to the American people.
And Trump was right. President Trump was right.
Always.
This has been a witch hunt from day one. Stay with us. We have one more final break to take, but we'll be right back with these lovely ladies on The Right View.
Ready to go?
This is a crisis.
This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysterical xenophobia.
Biden's son inked $1 billion deal with a subsidiary of the Bank of China.
Why, we're getting nervous, man. China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not bad folks.
Since the outbreak, the Communist Party has been mobilizing overseas organizations to buy local supplies and send them to China.
The growth of China is overwhelmingly in our interest.
What a beautiful history we wrote together. Banning all travel will not stop it.
The president is right. That travel restriction on China, as every public health official we've talked to said, bought the country time.
Hysterical xenophobia. Dear mine. Xenophobia.
Joe.
I complimented him on dealing with China. I'm not going nuts.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
And welcome back to The Right View. I'm Katrina Pierson here with three of my favorite people, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Lara Trump, and Mercedes Schlapp. Ladies, let's wrap this up. I want to get your final thoughts for the American people who are at home and likely learning things they have not been told on their usual network programming. Kimberly, let's start with you. What are your final thoughts for the audience?
Yeah, my final thoughts are, America has a very important, really life-changing American political history changing choice to make. And I have to tell you something, I really do believe that Americans are going to make a powerful choice, the right choice, especially with information getting put out there like by programs like this, because President Trump is actually literally going to make America safe, healthy, and prosperous again. He's the one that has the economic power, the prowess, the know to, and be able to sit there and say, what can I do to make sure that we get this American economy restarted? He did it once before. He's going to be able to do it again. And I feel confident about it. We all know him personally. This is the right person for the job and for the country. And I look forward to seeing, because I really believe that the best is yet to come.
And it is. Mercedes, your final thought.
Well, I got to tell you, I love you all volunteers out there who are making the phone calls. We just had a record number of calls, 10 million calls made this past week. It's just amazing. And it's all because of the volunteers, those people dedicated to reelecting President Donald Trump. We can't do it without you. So love you guys. Keep working hard. And we still have a way to go. So we're going to need you every single day as we get through these next months.
And Lara, 5 years and counting, sister. What are your final thoughts tonight?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I want to give a shout out to all of the voters for Trump out there. I've seen these incredible vote parades over the past couple of weeks. I think this Saturday at noon, there's going to be one in my hometown of Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. I already told my parents to get their Trump flag up on the boat. Let's get them out there. Keep doing these, guys. It is such an amazing thing for everyone across the country to see, for every single person in the mainstream media to see. The Democrats, did you see Joe Biden's boat parade? I didn't think so, because the only people coming out and doing things like that are people that love this country and they're voting for Donald Trump. So I want to say thank you to everybody out there doing these awesome boat parades. If you live in a landlocked state, Do a car parade. Let's keep all this going. You can social distance and be in your car. I say everybody get out there with your Trump flags. Let's trigger the left-wing media. Let's get everybody all riled up. I think it's awesome. So stay safe, everybody. Keep up the awesome work and keep up the parades. I love it.
Yes, and don't forget to hashtag Team Trump for your pictures. We'd love to see the pictures. We love to see the supporters, the volunteers, and all of the parades that are going out there, whether it be by boat or by caravan. The Trump campaign has reshaped presidential politics through an unprecedented digital operation, and we have the largest ground game in presidential political history. And we are producing unprecedented voter contacts within our virtual campaign. And last week alone, ladies, Trump victory has made 10 million phone calls, which is a Republican record. That's thanks to everyone who's tuned in tonight. And we're going to need you to continue to ensure that we can keep America great this November and defend our great country against Joe Biden and the radical Democrats. The stakes could not be any higher. We need patriots at home watching right now to join us to fight to re-elect Donald J. Trump for president. And here's how. Download the new groundbreaking Trump 2020 app, now available on Apple and Android. You can sign up to volunteer, register for events, and win exclusive prizes. You can stay in contact with us, so please text Trump to 88022. And if you and your friends and family or neighbors want to be involved to fight to re-elect President Trump, visit armyfortrump.com to sign up. There are a ton of ways to get involved, following our social distancing guidelines, of course. You can attend TVLI trainings. You can host virtual MAGA meetups and phone bank from home. So I'd like to thank our amazing panel for joining us tonight and all of the viewers at home. A special thank you to our audience watching. And check the Team Trump online schedule for more upcoming events 7 days a week. And until then, stay safe and we'll see you next time.